Whew. Oh. Oh man. Sugar diet. Any diet, right? Sugar diet, any diet. Man, this lighting just kills in this basement, man. This lighting down here, just look at it. You think I'm a freaking bodybuilder with this lighting down here, man. Jeez, look at that. Especially after hitting triceps like that. Jeez. With my Spider-Man hat from like 2003. Freaking just walking around. Yeah, what's up, man? What's up? What's up, dude? That almost like horseshoe look. It's all lighting. It's all these freaking influencers use as perfect lighting. No, nobody's in a dungeon. Nobody's in a dungeon flexing their triceps like this, or all out in some freaking apartment that's made to have perfect lighting for their stupid pictures. No one's in some dungeon with friggin' wood blocking out the, it's an old house with lighting in the back. Oh, man. So the sugar diet, yeah. Look, if you want to do the sugar diet or any diet, I think the best way to adhere to it is not to just jump in cold turkey. Pick a day out of the week where you know you can stick to it. So if you're gonna do carnivore, eat normally the rest of the week, pick one day where you're gonna do carnivore, right? I know people talk about it and they're like, well, the whole purpose of carnivore is to eliminate all these sugary foods, all this, that, or the other. If you can't even commit to a day of a diet, you're not gonna be able to commit to a week, months, 6 months, a year. You're not gonna be able to commit to the lifestyle. So you have to start off slow, right? You can sort of hit that unicorn if you find a diet where you can stick to it forever until you get to your body weight that you want to get to. But you know, how often are you gonna do that? How likely are you to do that? That's why people yo-yo back and forth, not necessarily between their weights, but between diets. Well, I'm carnivore, well, I'm vegetarian now, I'm keto. You know, I was trying carnivore, but now I'm keto with all this other food. That just start off slow. So if you want to do the sugar diet, do a sugar fast day, right? I even hate calling that, because to me, if you're gonna fast, it's just terminology, right? That, you know, they should throw in sugar and fast. If you're gonna fast, you're not eating any food, right? You're not eating anything for like, if you actually want to make progress with fasting, you're not eating anything for 32 hours, right? But if you're gonna sugar fast, right? Basically eat only carbohydrates from honey, fruit, juice, stuff like that. Just pick one day out of the week. Maybe it's your most busy day, so you won't even feel it. So if you have a busy day or a work day, you know, choose that. For breakfast, you're gonna do this. For lunch, you're gonna do this. And for dinner, you're gonna do this. So one day out of your week, you're starting with that sugar fast day, right? Whatever day you want. And then if you're like, yeah, I didn't feel too bad, you go to the next week, you do 2 sugar fast days. You go to the next week, you do 3 sugar fast days. You know, where you feel good and you're seeing progress, right? Because you want to see progress. You know, the more you get into it, the more progress you're probably going to see if you're able to adhere to it. Same thing with carnivore. Eat the same 6 days out of the week, one day of the week, do a carnivore fast, right? How stupid does that sound? Do a carnivore day, right? So maybe you're going to go out to dinner, right? You're going to go out to dinner, so maybe for breakfast you have eggs, bacon, right? For lunch you have, I don't know, maybe some eggs or bacon. You know, carnivore is so restricted, you can keep it simple. Maybe you have a chicken breast for lunch, or some meat or something you cooked or something like that. And then, you know, you don't have to be so restrictive where you can't eat out with your family or eat out with your significant other or friends. So, you know, you're gonna go out to eat with your family that night. So it's, you know, Friday night, you just finished your work week for a lot of people, which is a normal work week. You go out to eat, buy a steak, you know, you go to a steakhouse or any place, they're gonna have some sort of meat only, right? You know, just get meat only stuff. And if you want, you know, if you want to keep it cool so people don't think you're weird or something like that, get vegetables with it, right? Those vegetables ain't gonna kill you. You know, if they have sides that are carnivore sides, get that, right? Which would be like some sort of meat product more, or some sort of dairy or whatever, but dairy's kind of iffy on carnivore. But do that, you know. get them and don't even eat them. If you want to be like that, just so you don't look weird. And it's just one day a week. How simple is that? And then if you're able to adhere to that, add 2 days. So the next time you get to next week, you're doing 2 days, right? But the whole purpose you would do it is so you can ultimately have the goal of weight loss. So you ultimately want to have that goal. Because if you don't, it's fine, but why would you want to try the diet, right? If you're not trying carnivore to lose weight, I really have a hard time feeling that people are going to see any benefit from it if they're not losing weight. All these miraculous things that people talk about happens after carnivore. It's for the first time in their lives, people have lost a lot of body weight, and they think that carnivore I don't even think they think along with the weight loss. They just think that carnivore just is this miraculous thing that happened. It can be mentally, but really all it is you lost a ton of weight. And when you lose a ton of weight, your body's like, thank God, I don't have to hold on to this excessive mass anymore that was just burning energy, keeping me unhealthy. I wasn't able to be active. It's gone now, and we're able to feel better, right? That is a huge thing that happens with any weight loss ever. I can tell you right now, walking up a flight of steps at my weight now, which is like 190, 200, versus when I was 230, 240, completely different. I didn't do cardio then. I really don't do cardio now besides walking, but going up those steps, I don't get out of breath, right? I can push myself, I can push my cardio up and get better, make it harder, and I'll start breathing heavier. But I can tell you at 190 versus 230, 240, difference, huge difference. I mean, that's close to 50 pounds. So, right, the adherence and getting into it. So that's the basis of this whole video. Don't freak out where it's like, okay, Mark Bell's doing 3 sugar fast days with protein and vegetables on one day and this, that, and the other. I think for some people who are new and they see these fad diets, they get confused and they think that it's like super complicated. And they ask all these questions and it brings more clicks, it brings more views, which is great because people want to learn. But for the majority of people who are just starting out, start simple. Because you can start simple and then you can snowball like that. So if you're gonna start sugar diet, carnivore diet, those are the 2 hot topics right now because Cole Robinson had to start like the war between them. But you start off with those. So you wanna start the sugar diet, do a sugar fast day once a week. Make it the easiest day that you know you have no problem adhering to it. If you wanna do a carnivore diet, make it the easiest day of the week that you know you won't have a problem adhering to, okay? That's what you need to do when you're gonna start off any diet. Don't just start off doing, I'm just gonna go 7 days a week, straight up chicken breast, bro. You're gonna lose your mind. You're not gonna be able to do it. After if you're strict enough, after 7 days, you'll probably lose 2 to 3 pounds of fat on just chicken breast alone, but are you gonna be able to do it for 2 weeks? You're gonna start feeling like crap too, because you have no fat coming in from chicken breast and you have no sources of carbs. So you're gonna start feeling like trash. So you need to literally just test it out. It's like, if I did the sugar fast for a day, I could probably do 2 days. Great. Next week rolls around, find those 2 days on your calendar and be like, I'm gonna do a sugar fast day. I'll do a sugar fast day probably on this day. Same thing with carnivore, right? Ease into it. Learn about what foods you like too on the diet, and then that'll help you even better. That's a huge thing that I think people don't realize is that they watch someone do a diet and they're like, man, I have to eat this, and they do it and like, I don't really like that, I can't do the diet. But there's a lot of foods you can eat. So figure out what foods you can eat too. That's probably a whole nother video because this is getting around 10 minutes. So I'll just end it here on that. But start slow, pick a day, start with that, and then snowball off that.